I'm here today with Aart Scholte. He's a professor at the University of Warwick and works at the Center for Global Cooperation Research. Welcome to the German Development Institute.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Professor Scholte, you're joining us today for a public lecture within the framework of the Managing Global Governance program. And so you have a particular point of global governance. And so we're wondering, your criticism of mainstream studies on globalization and global governance. Could you elaborate on that?
Okay. I should say, first of all, it's not a criticism of existing studies necessarily. Lots of good work has been done, much valuable work has been done. But I think if we look at existing mainstream studies of globalization and global governance, they do have some biases, a certain narrowness to them. One is that they tend to come largely from the global north and largely from Anglophone, English-speaking situations. That's quite unglobal, if you like. They also tend to come from Western cultural perspectives. We don't hear very much about how globalization and global governance look from indigenous perspectives, from Chinese perspectives, from Islamic perspectives, and so on. There's also quite a narrowness in disciplinary terms. The work tends to come from individual academic disciplines, especially economics, politics, sociology, but very little work that moves across and between and joins different disciplines. And then socially, it tends to be a little bit oversimplistic, but there's a heavy predominance of professional, middle-aged white men.
Like us.
Like us, indeed. And then I think also sectorally, a lot of academic studies of globalization and global governance tend to be by academics, amongst academics, for academics, and not tending to relate so much to practitioners, with people in business, in media, in politics, in civil society. So there's a lot of narrowness in a way. It's a rather undemocratic academic study.
So talking about studies and research, currently you are involved in a research project on building global democracy. Mm-hmm. What do you do differently, just from listening to you, research for researchers? Where are the practitioners? Maybe you have some more insights on that.
No. So this particular program, the idea was to start from the criticisms that I just elaborated and to do each of those things differently. So in the Building Global Democracy program, we have equal participation of people from 10 world regions. So there's always only one European and only one North American for every one Russian, every one South Asian, every one East Asian, mm-hmm. every one Sub-Saharan African, every one Middle East, Latin America, Caribbean, Pacific, and so on. So the equal distribution across the different world regions. And it's transcultural, so it's bringing people from different cultural perspectives in a diversity. It's bringing young people as well as older and middle-aged people. It's gender diversity, gender balance between men and women. There's a class diversity of some degree. We've had participation of sexual minorities, of people living with disability, and so on. So there's a social diversity. Always the programs are half participation by practitioners and half participation by academics. All papers are presented by practitioners rather than by academics. The academics write the papers, the practitioners present them. And so we do a number of things differently.
Sounds very innovative.
I hope so.
And what would you say are the practical implications of your research project, especially for global governance?
Well, I think a number of the ideas that have come out of this program have been different. So a lot of the standard ideas that people have about global democracy were not coming out of this particular way of doing things. Much more emphasis on gender equity, much more emphasis on religion in some cases. Now, if we take all of that in terms of the practical implications, I think we could say that when global governance institutions want to consult the demos, the people, I think this program tells them that they are probably not going to the right places and they are not always doing it in the right ways. So there are suggestions of who they should consult and how they could consult them. I think there are also implications for civil society, the so-called voice of the people in global politics. If you see what came out of this project, then maybe the civil society as presently formed is not as democratic as it always makes itself out to be. And so civil society practitioners could perhaps change their approach to the way they do their business. And lastly, I think the project tells us something different about how to deal with cultural diversity in global politics. That rather than saying everyone must adopt a Western way and adopt a Western model of democracy, actually global democracy might be an occasion to rethink what democracy means and renegotiate across cultural diversities what democracy might mean both as an idea and a practice.
Professor Scholte, thank you so much for joining us today here at the German Development Institute in Bonn.